Hello, and today I want to talk about Anthem by Ayn Rand. I read a lot of Ayn Rand's philosophy books, like The Virtue of Selfishness and Philosophy Who Needs It. She has lots of like essays and stuff about her philosophies, and I was curious about like her fiction, like Atlas Shrugged, but that's like a huge like 1,000-page book, and that was really discouraging to me. So when I found out that there was this like sort of short book that kind of talks about her philosophy, I was certainly curious about it, and so that's why I read this book. The story is about this young man, and he's a street sweeper. And he one day finds these like sort of tunnels, and he is able to go hang out there, and it's quiet, and he's like kind of at peace, and he can be alone and by himself. I don't know if he finds paper or he brings paper there, but he starts to write, and he writes about his past and about his history. But he also knows that by being there, he's like doing something wrong. Like he knows that he's like breaking the rules of his society. He writes about how as a child, like he was very curious and smart, and how he wanted to be like a scholar. He wanted to dedicate his life to like knowledge and learning and discovery. But at the same time, his smarts got him in trouble with the students and the teachers, and he was labeled a bad seed or something. Like he basically got in trouble for his smarts. It was more of a burden on him, at least as far as the society was concerned, than it was actually to his benefit. And because of this, he was sentenced to being a street sweeper. Like that was kind of his punishment for being too curious and asking too many questions. He recounts this time when he was 10 years old, and there was a person who was burnt in the streets because they used one of the unspeakable words, which was I. And so just a little bit of context, this is like a collectivist society, and so using the word I is a violation. In his tunnel, he is doing these science experiments, and he discovers electricity. He also invents a light bulb, and he wants to, he's like really excited about his discovery, and he wants to share it with the World Council. But he knows he can't just share it with anyone. He has to wait till this like specific time to share it. One day while he's working, he meets this girl, and she gives him some water, and he tries to speak to her. And he kind of has these feelings, these sort of emotional feelings. He thinks of the place of mating when he sees her. And this place of mating is this place where all of the people go once a year. This is, how kids are created, I guess. It means he has feelings for her. One night, while he's in his lab, he stays there too late. And when he returns to the home, maybe the door is locked or something, but he's arrested and he's sent to prison because he's broken the laws. They ask him where he was, why he came home so late, but he never kind of gives in. He never tells them what he's done. He had wanted to share his discovery with the World Council, and they are having a meeting in his town. So he escapes prison, he goes to his tunnel, he gets his light bulb, and then he goes to the World Council and he tries to show them his discovery. But because society is backwards and slow or whatever, they reject his discovery. They say it's dangerous. They tell him he has to destroy it, but he does not want to do that. So he takes back his light bulb, and then he runs away from the city and heads to the forest, where he thinks that he can find freedom. While he's sort of just getting into the forest, he finds that his girlfriend or the girl from before had followed him into the forest. So the two of them are wandering around. Eventually they find a house, and it's from the times past. They go into the house, and the house has all these things, like these comforts that the girl really appreciates. And the guy, he finds this library where there's all these books, and he can read about I and whatever else he can find. So he commits to creating a new race of civilization where the people are individuals, and they sort of focus on the supremacy of the ego, or of the individual abilities and stuff. Like I said, I've read a few books by Ayn Rand, and so I kind of am familiar with her ideas. I'd say this book is kind of childish, in the way that it tells the story, or in the way that it represents society, or the way that it's trying to make its point. But it is kind of good to just get a sense of what her ideas are all about, what she was trying to say. Or I think that it's certainly interesting to look at or to think about the power of the individual and of the ego. There are some individuals just somehow are able to create great things they have great accomplishments and they do so much more than other people. I think like people might say that this idea is dangerous because like it kind of focuses on a specific type of people who tend to accomplish things, but I don't think that's necessarily what Ayn Rand had in mind. I think that like if you read what she says, like it really is about the individual, and instead of like thinking about people as being members of groups, like they are individuals. So there's words like race of supremacy, but like it's not like how we would interpret that word to mean today. I think it tends to mean like just like a people, individuals, like not being identified by the groups that they belong to, and like just allowing individuals to thrive and strive and to do great things, and opposed to like saying that they're a member of a group or something and then using that group as some kind of way of like doing good or bad to them. Ayn Rand is really sort of focused on the power of capitalism, and so she believed that like if people do great things, then they should be rewarded for it. Like in some of her books, it's like the people who do great things isolate themselves and remove themselves from society, and then society sees the negative consequences of isolating or not accepting those people who were great. These days, there's like kind of like this talk about like the rich and the powerful need to be paying more taxes and all this stuff, and maybe there's this like resentment towards people who are successful. I think that there's a certain level of luck that's involved to like being successful like a billionaire, but like there's certainly a lot more meritocracy to a lot of other types of success. Maybe not the types that we see on television, but like there are lots of successful people who do great things because of merit. And I feel like when we're looking or thinking about what Ayn Rand was thinking about or talking about, like that's more of the kind of person she's talking about, like the people who are successful because of their merit. And like her books do focus on these like individuals who do really great things, and I think that there's certainly something to that, but I do think at the same time like there's risk because of the way that systems are created. They like tend to really reward people who have certain types of success to the detriment of other people. So like I can understand like doubts about these ideas for sure, but I do think that there's certain reasonability to it. It talks too about like the risks of collectivism, like about how like the strong are pushed down. There's this like Japanese saying, it's nail that sticks out the most gets hammered. People who stand out, people who are different, tend to be like discouraged or sort of ostracized or kicked out of society or punished by society, and that is obviously not fair to them, but it also prevents them from like accomplishing their true greatness, which again, this is anyone who is being mistreated or ostracized by their community is sort of being prevented from achieving the greatness that they potentially have. And so like this can apply to anyone. It doesn't have to apply to a specific type of people. Most people see certain things like the same way. Like there's sort of the established or mainstream way of seeing things, and if you see things differently, then you have the risk of getting in trouble for that, or for not being appreciated, or people having a problem with that. So like that's just like kind of an idea that this book is kind of getting at. It also talks too about like the importance of like sticking to what you believe in, sticking to what you think is right and what is true, and that's certainly kind of represented by this character here, where he like escapes prison and runs away to the forest because he knows, or he discovers that he can't accomplish what he wants to accomplish by living in the city. He has to go find his own way in the forest. And like just as like a general thought, I've kind of touched on this already, but like I think this is a lot about like individuality, focusing on the individual, like looking at what the individual is doing, like what have they accomplished, what are they working towards, and opposed to like looking at people as members of groups. And like members of groups is important, but I think if we focus too much on the membership of groups that people belong to, then we miss out on like the accomplishments of the uniqueness and of the greatness of the things that they themselves are doing. And so like I think that's a good idea from this book, and from just Ayn Rand in general. But I know that like a lot of people find her work controversial, but I do think that her message, generally speaking, is to like look at individuals as individuals doing things for themselves can be for other people as well, right? But like individual, look at things as people, as individuals, and opposed to thinking of them as groups of, or representations or representatives of a group that they belong to. Those are my thoughts on Anthem by Ayn Rand. I don't know, like this, I think this is a short book. It's like 100 pages or so. It's an easy, simple read. So it's a really quick read to get through. So maybe it's worth reading. But if you were curious about Ayn Rand and her ideas, maybe there's probably better books to look at. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any feedback for me, let me know. Click that like button. And if you're curious about seeing more book reviews in the future, then click that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk next time. Goodbye.